Hi there. Hey, how's it going? I'm sure a lot of you are doing what I'm doing, setting up maybe a little makeshift office in your home. Maybe you're just sitting at your dining room or your bedroom. I am so grateful that I have this space because I do need a secure, confidential space for doing teletherapy. Anyways, the reason I'm coming to you today was I read this article the other day, and some of you may have seen it. I think it popped up on Facebook, and it was so helpful to me. And I thought, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but I thought maybe I'd go through it a little bit with you today. And the title of the article is That Discomfort You're Feeling is Grief, by Scott Berinato, March 23rd, 2020. And when I read that, just the ability to label my feeling made me feel better, even though it's an uncomfortable feeling. Grief is not a comfortable feeling. But when I went through the article, it was also talking about, again, grief. And I talk a lot about this with my clients sometimes, that there are stages of grief, but we always remind people that it's not a linear process, and that we can be in stage 1 and 4 and 5 and then back, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. The thing about what we're going through right now is it's a little bit different because we have a loss, and we have an expected loss, or what this author calls it is an anticipatory loss. And it's similar to when maybe we have a loved one or ourselves have a serious diagnosis, and we know something is going to be happening in the future, may or may not happen in the future. And that's what's happening with all of us right now. So I don't know about you, but for me, just labeling it as anticipatory grief was helpful. I've been doing some things with my clients, and actually started doing this with my family. We're really doing a feelings check-in a couple times a day, maybe a couple times a week. And it's really interesting to me to check in to see where I'm feeling. With anxiety, which basically this is, if we were to label it as a feeling, it's not something that we're going to be able to make go away. We can find tools and strategies to help us manage our anxiety and work through it. But as with any anxiety, it's really not about all or nothing. It's about managing where we're at and having skills and tools and techniques that we can use to help us manage our anxiety, our stress, our overwhelm, and our anticipatory grief better. I wanted to kind of go through the stages of grief because a lot of you may know them, but it's kind of, I love how he explained it in this article. And I'm trying to find that section with the stages. I don't normally print things out. So the first step is denial. So we may have been at the stage, we might still be at the stage. Early on, I'm sure a lot of us were. This virus, it's not going to affect us. I'm healthy, I'm young. You know, the next step is anger. A lot of us may have felt they're making us stay home. They're telling us we can't go do certain things. We can't go to our favorite restaurants. There could be a lot of anger feeling about that, even when we know that it's for our own good, like how this is just stressing me out. And my job, now I have to figure out how to do my job online, or I have to figure out how to apply for unemployment because like all that anger. Then there's bargaining. Okay, if social distancing works, great. Do that for a couple weeks and everything's gonna be better, all right? Like just do what they say. I wash my hands. Nothing bad's gonna happen. Nothing bad's gonna happen. And ideally, that's what we are hoping for, obviously. But we already know that we cannot completely end any tragic events because things have already happened. And that's a stage that we could be stuck in and thinking, if I do this, nothing's going to happen. Another big stage is sadness. It's a really important part of grief. It's acknowledging that I'm sad. I've lost something. I've lost the new normal. The normal, because what is the new normal? We don't know yet, but most experts are thinking that things are really not going to ever be back to how they were in certain areas and certain things. And we're all going to probably be changing some things that we've done in our lives. And it's sad to know the losses that we've already had. People, loved ones, friends and family, or people that we don't even know that we've lost during this time. Definitely very, very much sadness, part of this grief process. And finally, and I like to put that in quotes, is acceptance. Because again, you could go back to a little bit of denial or a little bit of bargaining. But when you really get to acceptance, that's the point where you can imagine the new normal. And that's really where the power lies. It lies in accepting what's happening. And how do we do that? According to this, we find ways of learning how to find ways of things that we can control in our lives. Like we can control our social distancing. We can control washing our hands. We can control how we socialize and make time for exercise, make time for going outside. We can control those things. I talk to people all the time about challenging their thinking. And that's not about beating ourselves up, telling ourselves, shouldn't think that way. It's more about reframing or redirecting and being grateful for what we can be grateful, refocusing. That is only going to be positive. It's only going to help us be less of a victim and more of a survivor. And I think that is what I have been looking towards. And I have had my moments, and I'm sure I will have more, where I start to spiral down and start thinking everything that can go wrong. And if I can challenge my thinking and say, right now, my family's healthy. Right now, I'm healthy. Right now, we are financially okay. That's called living in the moment. And for those of you who are familiar with meditation and yoga and that kind of thing. That's basically what that's helping us do, is live in the moment, recognize what's going on, recognize that this table here works, that my chair is holding me up, that my breath is coming in and out, and that brings me back into the moment. And that brings me back from my catastrophizing thinking. That brings me down back into those sad moments in grief. We're all going to be in this spot, this anticipatory spot. We don't know when things are going to change. One of the things that this author, when he talked to the authors of the book on grief, was they added another stage. And I really love this part of it because it's about meaning. And when we're going through something really, really hard, if we can find meaning in that, and I think what we're all looking for right now is connection with others. It's bringing some of us who have kids that are busy all the time in sports and in jobs, bringing us home, and we're sitting at the kitchen table together and having dinner. It's bringing some of our college kids home that we haven't seen very often, and when they're in their 20s, maybe we don't get to see them very often. It's bringing them home. We're learning new technology. So looking at, it's not necessarily not empathizing and just silver lining it. It's actually finding meaning and finding purpose and finding things to be grateful for. One of the things that it said in this article was, when you're starting to go down that negative, think about those positive things. But there's two extremes. You could be the person that's thinking on the negative and the person that only thinks of the positive. And I love the idea of thinking of a spectrum. We might be here, we might be here. Some days we might move a little here. But we want to be balancing ourselves out. Not denying that something is going on and not extremely worrying. I know there's so much out there in the media and we need to know what's going on. But for our own health and our own peace, recognizing that we're all in this together, and if we can label it, know that, yep, this is anticipatory grief, and work through that and be real with each other and with ourselves, I think we're going to be in a better place for the moment and maybe for the day. And then tomorrow we'll have to do it again. We'll have to really have compassion for ourselves and grace for others in these moments. So when someone is doing something that you don't like, or your neighbor is maybe, have compassion for them, but actually go back to what you can control. They're afraid. Whatever they're doing is because of fear, and it's because of the uncertainty. But you can't control them. So one of the things that's really, again, going to bring you in and ground you is, what can you control? And love yourself. Thanks, you guys. I am here for you. Reach out, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.